Back to life. Matt, can you walk us through the basic building blocks of this newish, because we've been off a while, newish BBC Three sitcom?
Basically, this is created by and starring Daisy Haggard. She plays Miri, who returns to her childhood home after a stint in prison. There's the sort of the ghost, the past sort. She comes into a room which has been unchanged since she was a teenager, and she sort of has to come back into this community that don't really want her there. At first, we don't know what is the crime she's committed, why people are hostile towards her, and we get that over the course of the series, while she sort of tries to work out what happened in the build-up to why she did what she did.
The customer will come in through the door and you'll say, "Hello, how are you?"
I'm fine, thank you.
No, I wasn't asking you.
Oh, no, I was being them.
Oh, right, yeah. Would you like to try the fish?
Oh, well, I suppose I should if I'm working here.
No, this is still in the hypothetical.
Oh, right, sorry. No, I wasn't going to just, eat that.
Raw fish makes people very ill.
But sushi's quite...
But when it is cooked, you can offer samples.
Do you know what? I think I can probably feel my way with some of this stuff, because I'm quite good with people, so...
Now's your chance.
Hey! So Back to Life, it's all on the iPlayer. You've actually done it all, Matt. And
I have, yeah.
I know it's only half an hour, but you don't have a lot of time to do whole series in your week. So what was it about this?
The story sort of played out quite easily. I thought Daisy Haggard was excellent in the lead role. There were bits that I didn't like, which I'll get into in a minute, but I just found it a really easy watch, really.
And by the end, satisfying?
I think so, yes.
I watched the whole thing as well, and I also felt satisfied by the end, and it felt complete to me, which was really nice. Because I do find it frustrating sometimes when you get to the end of something and you feel like it's going to be a complete thing, but it doesn't. There's a little sort of tail wagging at the end, and you think, oh, maybe there's going to be something else. And I didn't have that feeling with this. I mean, you can always do a second series of something, but I don't. I think this felt complete on its own, which I really, really liked. It looked and sounded really quite beautiful as well. There was a really sort of cinematic feel to. Like those sweeping landscapes. It's filmed in Hyde, I think, isn't it? And just the way they made it look, it was absolutely stunning. And the parents as well. The home she goes to live in. One of them's played by Geraldine James, and her story takes some really interesting turns. And I thought she was fantastic. There's this one scene where Miri comes back to the house and Geraldine James hides the knives in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's the first episode, isn't it?
In the cupboard. And it just reminded me of something you might see like on the stage or something, like the audience knows some things that the characters don't know. The slow twist of that across the episodes is really well handled.
I love I think that's one of my favourites, the episode where they're together in the car.
Oh, that's wonderful.
She actually has to sort of face up to how she feels about her daughter going to prison and things like that.
Yeah, that's when they're actually honest, isn't it? So,
yeah. And I liked Adi Alaktar's character as well, this neighbour who was sort of understanding towards her at first, and you find out a little bit more about his relationship. He says he's a carer at first, and turns out it's his wife who he's caring for, and their little scenes together I really liked.
I haven't been able to watch all of it, although I plan to. And although it's a work of complete fiction, strangely it felt sort of autobiographical and really authentic. And not for a second did you not believe that Daisy Haggard had just come out of prison. It felt really close to the bone, but also it had a warmth to it, which I could appreciate. As you said, it looks fantastic as well. It's a setting we don't see very often. And I like just the gentle pace. It's refreshing to have a comedy where you're rooting for someone, whereas normally our comedy characters are people that make you cringe or that you laugh at. Whereas here, we're on the journey with her. She almost has us behind her as an audience from the off, and that's something that's not easy to do, and they do it really well here. So
I like the way she played it as well, because obviously she was, I think, 16 when she went to prison, or 18. So she's still got that childlike quality to her, because she's almost sort of regressing back to her childhood room and things like that. She hasn't had that development, has she? She's been basically in prison for these 20 years.
And there's that scene where she cuts her own hair, which is something a child might do, which I thought was really lovely.
And the Tamagotchi and little references like that, the Walkman and
the stuff, the posters on the wall.
Yeah. of all
there's only one.
Last Man Standing, Jamie
Yes.
Oliver.
You could almost imagine that it was written from the perspective of somebody who's been through this, and we know it's not, but it just feels really, really authentic and almost documentary-like at the start when she's trying to find her way in the world and trying to find where she fits back into her old life.
I don't know if you'll agree with this, Robin, but I think the one thing that didn't work for me was the sort of the Scandinavian chap who was trying to solve the mystery.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah,
I know they had to sort of find a point where they sort of dropped the reveal of sort of why what happened, but it felt a little bit clunky for me. And also the guy around the chip shop, his sort of motivation towards the end of the series, I didn't find him particularly well defined as well as the other characters, but on the whole, I really liked it.
The Scandinavian guy was a problem for me, although the way he was ultimately handled, because when he comes in, I started thinking, but then the way he was ultimately handled towards the end, I thought, oh, okay, I can deal with that. It's not quite what I thought it was, but there's a thing she does with swearing in the script that's a bit like the thick of it. You know, when you have that sort of ultra real level of sort of hyper reality level of swearing, which kind of always takes me out of a script, because I think this is something you're doing in your head. This is not something the character is actually saying as a real person. So I find that kind of thing jumps me out. But
it was the quieter moments that worked. I think like there's that scene where her dad goes to the doctors and there's a little boy there, and she asks him if he's got any grandchildren. He says he's got 2, and
that was lovely.
Just like little moments like that.
I think she talked to quite a lot of prisoners for it as well, for research. And I think that, you know, what you were saying about it feeling really like sort of documentary and authentic, maybe that's where that came from, because like the sort of signing on again at the GP, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's little details like that, things that you wouldn't think of unless you had been through that or talked to people who had been through that.
I think we've cornered the market in the UK of these sort of somber sitcoms. Mum is back next week, which is one of my favourites, and that is... It takes its joy in the quieter moments of humanity. There's a sentence that sounds like I know what I'm talking about. But it does. It takes its moments of joy in those, just the basics of humanity. And this is what I liked about Back to Life. It didn't make me howl with laughter. I might have smiled occasionally. But it was just warm and inviting, and you were on her side. And that's what you need for a show like this, I think. It was really
that's an amazing thing to be able to say about a character who is a convicted murderer as well. Or, you know,
I don't judge.
Isn't it? It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's all there if you want to watch it.